Hi, my name is Derek Larkins, and this is my presentation on resilience. An introduction to resilience, I think a good one comes from the book of Job, which I think many of us are familiar with. Discussion with the three comforters, we hear, "Nevertheless, the righteous will hold to their ways, and those with clean hands will grow stronger." I like the word nevertheless here. Nevertheless, life's going to throw this at you. This is going to happen. This is going to happen. Nevertheless, the righteous will hold to their ways. So my definition of resilience is a positive, constructive, intrepid response to any setbacks, adversity, insults, failures, anything that life's going to throw at you. In the book of Job, everything was thrown at him. I like the metaphor I use this with my soccer players about being rubber bands, being able to, snap back or just be flexible, get back into your original shape, be that on the field or just in life when crazy stuff is thrown your way. I think an athlete who typifies resilience is Tim Tebow, one of my favorite athletes. Reading his new book called This Is the Day. Just a very inspirational person. But we look at Tebow, national championship at Florida, 2 years, 2006, 2008, Heisman Trophy winner, 2007. Things are going well. Most of the media loves him. A lot of scrutiny when he joins the Denver Broncos, but has some success. When he gets his opportunity, leads his team to some dramatic come-from-behind victories. They win that first-round playoff game in overtime versus the Steelers on his long touchdown pass. And then he's out of a job. The Broncos get Peyton Manning. He gets shipped around to the Jets, the Patriots, and it doesn't work out. In my opinion, he doesn't get a fair shake. But people say so he can't throw his fundamentals, and that's okay. We scrutinize athletes for their techniques, and but I think being mocked for his beliefs, that's where things often cross the line. Because if someone walks the walk, it's Tebow, right? But he was resilient through all of it. He was, frustrated, cried, disappointed, just like any of us would be, but he was resilient and he held face. And so now it's awesome to see him switching sports, playing baseball, and actually having some success. He hit 273 last year in Double-A ball. That's not easy to do. Ask Michael Jordan about that one. Again, mocked for his lack of ability, his technique and stuff like that, but somehow the guy just gets it done. And the Mets already announced he's going to be starting the season in Triple-A next year. He's one step away from being in the major leagues. That's pretty amazing, but I don't think it's really amazing to people who know Tim Tebow or really follow him. This guy's able to do a lot of things because of being resilient. He works as a football commentator, just nice, fun, on-air personality. Like I said, publishes books. I've read 3 of them now. He runs various ministries. He's always done that. He has that prom for kids who have special needs. He runs the ministries in the Philippines, prison ministry, and the guy still does it all. And it's because he's always had resilience. He's always had that faith, his identity in the Lord to fall back on. Here's a speech he gave after a tough loss in college. Just a pretty well-known speech. So let's take a look at this. Oops, let me go back one here.
And I just want to say one thing to the fans and everybody in Gator Nation. I'm sorry. Extremely sorry. We're hoping for 100 feet this season. That was my goal. 7-4 is never done here. But I promise you one thing. A lot of good will come out of this. You have never seen any player in the entire country play as hard as I will play the rest of the season. And you never see someone push the rest of the team as hard as I will push everybody the rest of the season. You never see a team play harder than we will the rest of this season. God bless.
So, again, you see he had that foundation. College wears his emotions on his sleeve, but takes responsibility for the loss and lets that build him up. And that's how we have to respond to setbacks. Don't know how many other people beside Viktor Frankl could be a better example for us of that. We've talked about him in various classes in the coaching program, and Jeffrey Marks cited him again in his book Season of Life. Viktor Frankl, of course, survived the Holocaust and wrote about it, and has been able to help us find meaning in our lives through all of our things that we go through. He said that to arrive at the meaning of life, to find that's only going to happen by learning that even the helpless victim of a hopeless situation, facing a fate he cannot change, may rise above himself, may grow beyond himself, and by so doing change himself. He may turn a personal tragedy into a triumph. And that's what we're called to do when we're resilient. But it's amazing to hear Viktor's story, and anyone else who survived the Holocaust help us in our trials that probably aren't as challenging, obviously. An example of resilience from the New Testament, a passage I like from the book of James, chapter 1, verses 2 through 4. Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its work so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything. Perseverance, resilience. Again, it's these trials in life that build us up. Another athlete who we may not think about sometimes when we think about resilience was Steph Curry with the Golden State Warriors. We may look at his demeanor. He's happy-go-lucky, dancing around, and that's who he is, right? He's got a great family. But he has overcome a lot of injuries, a lot of ankle injuries specifically. He's the guy in American sports culture that we do love because he was the underdog. Small guy, didn't get a lot of big D1 offers for college basketball, played at Davidson. He's still a guy who gets judged on his teammates' performance often. So while, he's only that good because he's got Kevin Durant. But, basketball is a team sport. You got to have good teammates, and he makes his teammates better. You just watch the difference when he's on the court versus off the court. But really, if we talk about off the court importance, I'm talking about Curry's foundation in his life is the Bible verse, Philippians 4:13, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. It's my favorite Bible verse. I have it on my bracelet here. He's got it written on his shoes, his Under Armour shoes. And a lot of people don't know this about him, but he is a man of God, and that's his foundation. So his being able to bounce back from all these injuries, that comes from that identity in the Lord, that resilience, that foundation. Here's a video you can watch later if you want on, it's called Against All Odds, a little 2-minute clip about Steph Curry's resilience. And here's Sonnet 29 by William Shakespeare. It's one of my favorite sonnets because it deals with resilience. Let me read it for you. When in disgrace with fortune in men's eyes, I all alone beweep my outcast state, and trouble deaf heaven with bootless cries, and look upon myself and curse my fate. Wishing me to like one more rich in hope, featured like him with friends possessed, desiring this man's art and that man's scope, with what I most enjoy contented least. Yet, in these thoughts myself almost despising, haply I think on thee, and then my state, like to the lark at the break of day arising, from sullen earth sings hymns and heaven's gate. For thy sweet love remembered such love brings, that then I scorn to change my state with kings. So in this poem we have a speaker who's dejected, downcast. He's thinking about, I wish I was like that guy. I wish I had powerful friends. I wish I had that guy's ability, that man's wealth, all these things we battle with, envy in life, wanting to be like somebody else. But then he realizes, he thinks on, it's like a romantic love interest, but it could be anything that brings us back. For us, our identity in Christ, be our foundation, right? I may be struggling today, but I know I have my Redeemer, and it's going to be okay. I'm going to be resilient through it. So that's one of my favorite sonnets that I think is a good example of how to be resilient. In our soccer program, we have a saying called Tap the Rock. We actually took this from Villanova's football team. One of my players knew this story. We were trying to define resilience. We talked about rubber bands, and one of my players said, hey, the saying Tap the Rock. So we talked about it, and it comes from this priest, Father Rob Hagen, who told the football players who were part of a championship team, The stonecutters parable about, hey, when the stonecutter's breaking a stone, we see that stone break on the last tap, right? But there's all those taps before that you got to go through to break down that rock. And so like in sports, we may see the dramatic shot at the end, but there is a lot of other stuff that happens that leads into that shot that we don't see. So you gotta tap the rock, and stay with it, be resilient, and you might not see your rewards or your success till the very end. Another example of resilience is Abraham Lincoln, who, we see him maybe as the great uniter, but took a long time for him to get to that spot, and a lot of failures along the way, a lot of heartbreak, setbacks, losing his mom at age 9, fiance dies, has a nervous breakdown, battles through depression his whole life, a lot of defeats, running for Congress, U.S. Senate a couple times, vice president before becoming president. And it's that stuff that, builds you up. You got to be resilient. You got to have that faith foundation to weather all those storms. It's building you up for something greater. In conclusion, I'm going to go back to the book of Job again. It's where we learn, right? And Job, really early on, loses a lot, and he says, "Naked I came from my mother's womb, and naked I will depart. The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. May the name of the Lord be praised." It's always resilient, always going back to that foundation. In the life's most difficult trials, you got to be resilient, be resilient, be resilient. Stay faithful, and remember, resilience is a quality that gets us through just pretty much everything. Okay? Thank you.